Good day, everyone. I am Jude Adrian and Nicolas, and today we will discuss the realistic view of intergroup conflict. So, for the overview of my topic, we will discuss the conflict, the functional conflict, the dysfunctional conflict, and the three hidden costs, conflict and organizational performance, views on intergroup conflict in practice and reasons, and lastly, the intergroup conflict and group productivity. Now, from this point, we will now break down the important details in organizational conflict. So, accordingly, conflict is inevitable in organization due to individual differences on the basis of cultural background, learning styles, personality, and more. Emergence of conflicts amongst employees in various levels is inevitable. Moreover, managerial expectations, communication breakdown, and accountability issues can be specified as additional sources of conflict. Stereotyping can be mentioned as another factor that can cause conflicts in workplaces. However, because it can be a positive and negative force management should not strive to eliminate all conflict. Given this is because some type of degree of conflict may prove beneficial or important if it is used as an instrument for change or innovation. Now, interestingly, the same elements that are perceived to be success factors, such as teamworking and communication, can be sources of conflict due to reasons specified above. Constructive debates and conflicts may benefit organization to a certain extent. To be more specific, conflicts may result in clarifications of certain issues, contribute to more effective decision making, and improve certain organizational processes. Now, given this, why is there such thing as beneficial conflict in organization? So now we have the functional conflict. Now, this conflict is a confrontation between groups that enhances the benefits the organization's performance. So when conflict focus on tasks, constructive debate, or a clash of ideas, it can improve organizational decision making and work outcomes in many ways. So this functional conflict is actually a type of conflict that is characterized by the parties' efforts to achieve mutually beneficial outcomes. It is typically characterized by parties working together to resolve the conflict in a constructive way. Functional conflict occurs when there is a disagreement about what needs to be done, but everyone involved can work together to resolve the issue. Now, without such conflict in organizations, there would be little commitment to change. So, most groups would probably become stagnant or passive, or is not willing to contribute for ideas and think outside the box to contribute for an organizational innovation. Thus, functional conflict can be thought as a type of creative tension. Now, on the other hand, we have dysfunctional conflict. So, this conflict is any confrontation or interaction between groups that harms the organization or hinders the achievement of organizational goals. Now, in contrast with functional conflict, dysfunctional conflict is a type of conflict in which people can't work together to achieve their common goals, often due to a lack of resolution of differences. So basically, it is characterized by the parties' attempts to resolve the conflict in a way that harms or destroys the relationship. So, dysfunctional conflict is a type of conflict that occurs when two or more parties come to an agreement that is not beneficial to all involved. This type of conflict can cause emotional harm, distress, damage to relationships, and create a power struggle. So, how do we resolve this type of conflict? So, in this case, management must seek to eliminate dysfunctional conflict because such conflict can negatively influence performance by shifting group members' attention away from important tasks. So, we must also take note that beneficial conflict can often turn into harmful ones. The very same level of conflict that creates a healthy and positive movement towards goals in one group may prove disruptive and dysfunctional in another group. It is when beneficial conflict is already stepping outside the boundaries it will create tension instead of healthy collaboration. So whether if it's functional or dysfunctional, it is really important for groups to regulate and control their actions and avoid destructive conflict that may warrant from the two. So all in all, functional conflict is productive and helps to resolve the issue at hand. Dysfunctional conflict, on the other hand, is destructive and often leads to further conflict. It is important to recognize that when conflict is happening and to try to use functional conflict as much as possible in order to resolve the issue and not focus on the dysfunctional ones. But what are the hidden costs of dysfunctional conflict? We now proceed to the three hidden costs associated with dysfunctional workplace conflict. So first, we have conflict resolution diverts managers' time away from business opportunities. So as managers, uh, spend time resolving conflicts among their employees between departments and so forth, they are not working on new products, helping customers, or engaging in other important business related activities. So managers are somewhat redirecting their time to something that is not helpful for the organization. Second is someone will end up paying for the solution. So when two parties negotiate a compromise, some other party may end up paying for it. For example, if a union gains significant concessions from management in terms of pay raises and enhanced benefits coverage for its members, then it is possible that customers could end up paying for part of these concessions in the form of higher prices. So let's say the parties are meeting for a consensus. So the tendency is another party will be harmed of that decision and it will eventually put the organization in harm. And lastly, we have the employee health and well-being. So simply understood, conflict in organizations is stressful and employees are not immune to such reactions. So employee stress can lead to a wide variety of negative behavioral uh, outcomes like absenteeism, cognitive frustration, or in physiological outcomes, for example, in increased blood pressure. So all these three make up a struggle in organization in terms of industrial relationship. It is believed that dysfunctional conflict is really dangerous as it will stem a lot of problems that exist within these three negative conditions stated. So moving on, we have the conflict and organizational performance. So for conflict, we all know that it may have either a positive or negative effect on organizational performance, but it is depending on how it is managed. So managing conflict well can help find creative solutions to internal relationship issues and can help to prevent environments that breed negativity, stress, demotivation, and general employee unrest. So we all know that no organization runs for charity. It has to make money to survive well. So employees must give their 100% at work to ensure the maximum productivity. Nothing productive will ever come out if the employees are constantly engaged in fighting or criticizing others. So conflict management plays a very important role at workplaces to prevent conflicts and for the employees to concentrate on their work. The team leaders must also ensure that the roles and responsibilities of each and every employee are clearly passed onto them. So employees waste half of their time and energy in fighting with others and find it very difficult to work which they are actually supposed to do. So importantly, an individual must enjoy his work or otherwise he would never be able to give his best. So in order to bring out the best of conflicts in organization, an optimal level of conflict must be used to consider it as highly functional. So there must be a take note of this regulation and a better understanding of conflict mechanism or the difference between the functional conflict and the dysfunctional conflict. So let us remember this rule. When conflict level is too low, performance can suffer. On the other hand, if the conflict level is too high, the resulting chaos can also threaten its survival. Let us remember that the conflict must not lie on the extremes, but lie on the balance that actually benefit the organization. So moving on, we have the views on intergroup conflict in practice. So in practice, most managers actually attempt to eliminate all types of conflict, whether functional or dysfunctional. And here's why. First, anti-conflict values have historically been reinforced in the home, school, and place of worship. Traditionally, conflict between children and parents has been discouraged. In school systems, however, conflict was discouraged. Teachers had all the answers, and both teachers and children were rewarded for orderly classrooms. Finally, most religious doctrines stress peace, tranquility, and acceptance without questioning. Culturally, especially in the Philippines, it is really in our system to promote common good by avoiding conflict. This culture also stands true in many workplaces, which leads us to the second view, in which it says that managers are often evaluated on and rewarded for the lack of conflict in their areas of responsibility. Anti-conflict values in fact become part of the culture of the organization. Harmony and satisfaction are viewed positively in industries, while conflicts and dissatisfaction are viewed negatively. Now, under such conditions, managers seek to avoid conflicts as much as possible, either functional or dysfunctional, that could actually disturb the status quo of the organization. So much of these negation of with conflicts in all forms. Let us again discuss the intergroup conflict and group productivity. So as teams become more popular in workplaces, the productivity of both the overall and individual group members is receiving considerable attention from managers and researchers alike. So we all know that being in teams increases motivation. Just the idea of teamwork improves productivity. Team members who work near each other motivate each member to be more productive, even when they are each working almost entirely individually. In fact, even in virtual teams that never actually meet also increase their productivity over individuals working without being part of a team. Apparently, simply knowing you're part of a group that shares a common goals and depends on each member to excel is enough to increase each worker's productivity in overall functioning. Also, one factor that may influence the overall functioning of teams is conflict between team members. Some have argued that intergroup conflict can lead to improvements in overall group performance, decision quality, strategic planning, financial performance, and even organizational growth. In contrast, other researchers have found that certain types of intergroup conflict have an overall negative, however, effect on teams in that it contributes to lower levels of productivity and satisfaction in groups. Now, taken as a whole, our assumption is that some types of intergroup conflict are beneficial at certain times throughout the life cycle of a group or a team. Now, there are three types of conflict that can influence group functioning. First is task conflict. Now, this refers to members having differences in viewpoints and opinions pertaining to what group's tasks is. For example, two members of a strategic planning task force of a company may have very different opinions regarding what the group needs to accomplish. These differences may originate from a variety of areas, including differences in work values, functional area experience, years in the industry, and the likes. Second is the relationship conflict. Now, this conflict has been defined as being aware of interpersonal incompatibilities between group members that can lead to feelings of dislike, tension, irritation, and even frustration. The third and more recent type of intergroup conflict to be researched is the process conflict. It is defined as an awareness of controversies regarding how tasks will be accomplished. Process conflict deals with the delegation of tasks and responsibilities to different team members. So all these spectrum of conflict are an essential body of study for managers to actually carry out effective conflict management within their organizations. Taken into consideration, it is important to really take a look at the first two types of conflict, the functional and dysfunctional, and know how it will influence groups functioning in terms of tasks, relationship, and importantly, work processes. So, thank you everyone. I guess that's it for my report. You can browse my references in the compiled presentation. Have a good day.